The morning air around the training center was cold and dry, like metal left under the night sky. The building stood alone on the edge of the colony, wide and gray, shaped like a long box of steel and glass. Tall lights lined the outer walls. Cameras turned slowly on thin arms. The place looked more like a prison than a school. Shuttle trucks arrived one by one and stopped near the main gate. Doors opened with soft hisses. Young men and women stepped out, carrying small bags and wearing plain training suits with numbers on their sleeves. No one laughed loudly. No one talked much. Everyone knew this place had a reputation. People said the final test inside this center was harder than real combat. People said most failed. Some said a few never came back. A tall guard scanned each recruit with a blue light and waved them forward. The metal gate slid open. The sound echoed like thunder. Inside the yard, painted lines marked the ground. Groups formed naturally. Friends from the same city stood together. Strong-looking recruits stood in front. Quiet ones stayed at the back. Among the quiet ones stood a girl with short dark hair and steady eyes. Her name was Myra. She carried the smallest bag. Her suit looked a little loose on her thin frame. Nothing about her made her look special. If someone saw her in a crowd, they would forget her face in seconds. Two boys near her whispered. "She looks like she got lost," one said. "She won't last one round," the other replied. They laughed softly. Myra heard them, but her face did not change. She simply watched. She watched the yard. She watched the walls. She watched the shadows under the trucks. Most recruits stared at the large door ahead of them where they would enter the building. Myra glanced behind her instead at the closing gate. The gate shut with a heavy boom. For a second she counted how many guards stood near it. 4. Then she turned back. A siren sounded once, short and sharp. An instructor walked onto a small platform. He wore a black uniform with a silver badge. His voice came through speakers, calm and flat. "Welcome to the final survival assessment. Today you will take part in the test called Spot the Danger." Some recruits straightened their backs with pride. They had heard this name for years. This test measures awareness, reaction speed, and decision-making. Rules are simple: move forward, reach the end point, avoid threats. If a drone tags you, you are out. If you fall behind, you are out. If you freeze, you are out. He paused. "Danger will appear in front of you. Watch carefully." Many nodded. That made sense. Danger always came from the front. That was what every training video showed. Enemies charge, bullets fly, explosions happen ahead. The instructor pointed toward the large metal door. "Enter." The door opened slowly. Cold air flowed out. The first group stepped inside. The recruits walked through a long hallway. White lights hummed above. The walls were too clean, too smooth. The smell of oil filled the air. Hidden speakers played soft city sounds. Wind, far engines. Distant voices. It was meant to feel like a real street. They reached a wide chamber. The room looked like a small town built indoors. Fake shops, broken cars, street signs, even trash on the ground. Some recruits smiled. "It's just a game," someone said. "Easy," another replied. A green light flashed. The test began. Everyone started moving forward at once. Boots hit the metal floor in quick steps. Suddenly, a loud crash came from ahead. A pipe fell from above and smashed into the street. People jumped back. "Trap!" someone shouted. They ran around it. Then a section of the floor sparked and lit up red. Two recruits stepped on it and alarms beeped. Drones flew down and tapped their shoulders with soft sticks. "Tagged," a voice said. They groaned and walked to the side. More traps appeared. Boxes dropped. Doors slammed shut. Smoke burst from vents. Everyone kept their eyes forward, forward, forward. Myra moved slower. She let others pass her. Her head turned slightly from side to side. She listened to their footsteps. She listened to the echoes. Then she looked back. The street behind them was empty. But something felt wrong. The air moved strangely, like something had passed through. She slowed more. "Hey, keep up," a girl ahead of her said. "You'll fall behind." Myra nodded but did not rush. Another crash sounded in front. Everyone jumped again. While they stared, Myra heard a soft buzzing behind. Not loud, very small, like an insect. She turned. From a broken window above the street behind them, a small black drone slid out silently. It did not have flashing lights like the others. It moved low and fast. It flew straight toward the back of the group. No one saw it. They were too busy watching the front. The drone tapped the last recruit and beeped. The recruit yelped. "What? From where?" Another drone followed. Tag, another recruit out. Confusion spread. "Check ahead," someone yelled. "They're coming from the buildings." But they still faced forward. Myra stepped sideways and kept her eyes on the rear. Two more drones slipped from the shadows. She pointed. "Behind," she said quietly. No one heard. She grabbed the sleeve of the nearest boy and pulled him down. A drone passed right where his head had been. It missed. He stared at her, shocked. "From the back," he said. She nodded. Now he turned too, but most still watched the front. More traps fell ahead, more noise. More flashing lights. It was too distracting. The instructors knew exactly how to pull their attention forward. Myra began walking backward slowly, one step at a time. It felt strange, but she could see everything now. She saw 3 drones hiding under a car. She kicked the car lightly. The drones flew out too early and were easy to dodge. She saw a door open quietly behind a group. She shouted, "Move!" They moved just in time. The drone hit empty air. The boy she saved stayed near her now. "How did you know?" he asked. She shrugged. "They're quiet," she said. "Front is loud, back is quiet." He frowned, trying to understand. They kept moving. Ahead, more recruits were being tagged. Behind, fewer attacks reached her small area. After 10 minutes, half the group was already out. Breathing grew heavy. Sweat ran down faces. At the end of the street, a blue line glowed on the floor. Finish point. People sprinted. 2 more drones flew from behind during the rush and tagged runners easily. Myra did not sprint. She kept facing back and crossed the line slowly. A tone sounded. Stage complete. The lights brightened. Drones returned to the ceiling. Silence filled the room. Only 12 recruits remained from the original 30. The rest stood along the walls, frustrated. The instructor's voice came again. "Results recorded." Screens lit up on the wall. Small maps showed where each recruit had been tagged. Red marks covered the backs of the paths. Almost every elimination came from behind. Murmurs spread. "That's not fair. We were told to look forward. This makes no sense." The boy next to Myra looked at the screen, then at her. "You were right," he said softly. She didn't smile. She just watched the exits and counted the drones as they returned to their charging ports. High above, behind dark glass, several instructors observed. One tapped the screen where Myra's path showed a strange pattern. She had zigzagged, she had turned often, she had slowed down when others rushed. "She noticed early," one instructor said. "Luck?" another asked. The first shook his head. "No, she never faced forward for long. She kept checking her back every few seconds, like she expected something there." "Why would anyone expect that?" The instructor folded his arms. "Because maybe she learned the hard way." Down below, the remaining recruits lined up again. Some looked nervous now. They understood something important. The test was not simple, and danger did not always come from where people thought. Myra stood quietly at the end of the line. While others talked about the next stage, she glanced once more over her shoulder. The empty street behind them looked harmless, but she did not trust empty places. Empty places could hide anything. She adjusted the strap on her small bag and waited for the next door to open. Somewhere deep inside the building, machines hummed to life again. The next part of the test was already preparing, and once more, most of them would look forward. But she would not. The recruits followed the instructors through a second set of doors that opened onto a wide outdoor area. The air here was colder and dry, carrying the smell of burnt metal and dust. Smoke drifted over a broken town made of fake buildings and abandoned cars. Everything looked old and damaged, like a city that had been bombed years ago. The ground was cracked, littered with scraps of metal and plastic. It felt real enough to make some of the recruits shiver. The instructors gathered the group together and explained the next part. You must move across this field, avoid hazards, work with your team. Remember, forward is danger. Look around carefully. Stay alert. Most recruits nodded quickly, anxious to begin. They had seen the first stage and thought they knew how to handle this. Myra looked at the group and studied the empty streets. She noticed subtle signs. A small pile of dust that looked disturbed, faint scratch marks along the walls, and shadows that seemed to move even when the sunlight didn't change. Her eyes flicked constantly between the buildings ahead and behind. She felt a quiet tension in the air, like something was waiting. The first few steps were cautious. Cracked roads forced the recruits to move carefully. Most of them focused only on what was in front. Broken cars were pushed aside. Fake fires hissed from vents, causing sudden panic. Drones dropped from the sky, buzzing loudly, and tagged anyone who walked straight into them. Everyone dodged and ran, their focus only on the visible danger. Myra moved differently. She walked slowly, scanning the windows and doorways behind the group. When she heard a faint metallic scraping behind a pile of rubble, she called out quietly, "Step back, something is moving there." The others ignored her. They assumed she was scared. A second later, a spider-shaped drone emerged from the shadows behind them. It moved fast, silent except for a faint whirring. It tagged two recruits before they even realized it was there. Chaos erupted. Shouts filled the air. The group scattered, still looking forward. Myra grabbed the boy who had survived with her in the first stage and pulled him behind a fallen wall. They crouched low as another drone zipped past them, missing by inches. "Why is it coming from the back?" the boy asked, panting. "They always come from the back," Myra said calmly. "That's where most people never look." She scanned the street again and saw a tiny movement near a broken vending machine. Another drone, barely visible, crawled out and prepared to attack. She kicked a loose brick toward it. The drone twisted midair and missed. The group slowly realized that Myra had been right. Panic was spreading, but only a few recruits now understood the danger behind. Myra signaled for them to move in a circle so they could watch each other's backs. Her method was strange, but it worked. They advanced slowly, always facing a possible threat from behind. Smoke poured from a vent. Explosions rang from the front. Most recruits screamed and ran straight toward the chaos. Myra stayed calm. She could see the patterns of the drones now. They always struck quietly from behind. She led her small group around the obstacles, keeping her eyes on reflections, shadows, and the movements behind walls. One of the instructors observed from a high platform. He whispered to the others, "She notices everything the others miss. Look at her pattern. She does not run blindly. She moves with awareness." Another instructor shook his head. "This is unusual. Most recruits fail the second stage. She may be the first to see the true test." The drones became more aggressive as the recruits reached the center of the ruined town. They flew in pairs, trying to separate the group. Myra adjusted her movements, leading them backward slowly while dodging the attacks. She crouched behind a fallen car and used it as cover. She watched the gaps between shadows and walls. Each time a drone appeared, she calculated its path, and the group moved as she indicated. Some recruits started to follow her example, turning their heads to watch behind. A boy stumbled but caught himself, dodging a drone that would have tagged him. Another girl whispered, "She's right. The danger is always behind." Myra nodded slightly, her eyes never leaving the shadows. The group reached a narrow alley with metal walls on each side. The drones were faster here. One appeared from above, hovering silently. Myra pulled the boy behind a rusted vehicle. Another drone slid out from a broken doorway and tagged a recruit. Myra's quick thinking saved another. She led them through a zigzag path, confusing the drones and avoiding the traps set ahead. By the time they reached the final checkpoint, only a handful of recruits remained. Many had been tagged by drones attacking from behind, invisible until the last moment. Myra crossed the line slowly, keeping her eyes on the path behind. The boy who had followed her breathed heavily and whispered, "You saved us all. I don't understand how you knew." "They only watch the front," Myra said. "The real threat is where no one looks." In the observation room, instructors recorded every movement. One pointed at Myra's path. "She moves differently. She thinks differently. This is more than luck." Another nodded, noting how she had used her awareness to anticipate every attack from behind. As the group regrouped, whispers spread. The lesson was clear now. The test was not just about quick reflexes or strength. It was about awareness, about thinking differently, about seeing danger that others ignore. Myra stood quietly at the end of the line, her eyes scanning the ruins once more. The wind moved through the broken town, carrying a soft metallic sound. She did not trust it. Behind the buildings, behind the smoke, she knew the drones could still hide. She adjusted her bag and waited for the next stage, calm and ready. The instructors exchanged glances. "She may be the only one who truly understands the test," one said. "The rest of them will fail next. Most will never see it coming." Myra's small group moved toward the next door. They knew the test was far from over, and somewhere in the ruined town, silent threats waited for the next wave of recruits who would look forward, not back. She walked steadily, eyes always alert, never trusting the empty streets or the shadows behind. The real challenge was just beginning, and only those who watched carefully could survive. The next stage began in a place that felt wrong from the first moment. The recruits walked through a set of heavy doors into an abandoned research station. The walls were gray and cracked. Broken windows let in small beams of sunlight that barely lit the long hallways. The air smelled of dust and rust. There was no smoke, no alarms, no signs of fake danger, only silence. The instructors gathered the remaining recruits in the main hall. Their voices sounded quieter here. "This stage will test observation and decision-making. Danger is not always mechanical. Be alert." Most recruits nodded nervously. The first two stages had seemed dangerous but manageable. Now, the silence made their stomachs tighten. Myra paused at the doorway. She noticed small claw marks along the edges of doors. Scuff marks on the metal floor showed something heavy had been dragged recently. Her eyes flicked toward dark corners where shadows moved unnaturally. Something alive was here. She felt it instinctively, a tight knot of fear and alertness. The recruits moved forward, sticking close together. Their eyes swept the hallways ahead. Some whispered about how quiet it was, about how empty the place seemed. Myra stayed calm, scanning walls, ceilings, and the faint reflections in the glass panels. She noticed a faint metallic sound from behind, slow, deliberate, and careful. Without warning, one recruit disappeared. The girl had been walking near the front and suddenly vanished. There was no alarm, no loud noise, only an empty space where she had been. Panic spread quickly. The remaining recruits froze, unsure whether to run forward or stay together. Myra grabbed the boy who had survived the previous stages with her. "Don't move fast. Don't panic. Watch every corner." A low growl echoed through the hallway. It was soft, almost a whisper. The recruit stiffened. Myra's heart beat faster, but her mind stayed sharp. She recognized the pattern from years of practice in her colony town. The danger never announces itself. It hides, waits, and strikes when people assume they are safe. Something heavy moved behind a corner. The recruits tried to look forward, but Myra pulled them back. A shadow appeared from the darkness. A creature, larger than any drone, with long limbs and glinting eyes, slid silently toward them. It moved low, almost crawling, its head close to the floor. It struck from the rear, the direction no one expected. Myra quickly guided the small group back into a narrow hallway. She whispered instructions, telling them how to spread out, how to use shadows as cover, and how to confuse the creature. Her calm voice gave them confidence. Other recruits panicked and froze, their screams echoing as the creature struck them silently from behind. The instructors in the control room exchanged worried glances. "It's a live creature," one said. "This is more dangerous than we anticipated. The others are not ready for this." Another nodded. "She has instincts, pure instincts. She sees what others cannot." Myra led her group through the hallways carefully. She used reflections in broken glass to watch the creature without facing it directly. She noted the sounds of its claws scraping the metal floor and planned each movement to avoid detection. The boy following her nearly tripped over a piece of debris, but she caught his arm just in time. A second later, the creature passed where he had been. They reached a large room with several broken tables and overturned equipment. The creature had not followed them yet, but Myra could feel its presence. She whispered, "Circle up, back to back. We must see all sides." The recruits did as instructed, forming a tight group. Suddenly, the creature appeared in the doorway. It hesitated, as if sensing their alertness. Myra held her ground. Slowly, she began moving backward, carefully leading the group around the room in small, deliberate steps. Every time the creature lunged, they were ready. It became clear that it was intelligent enough to predict easy movements, but not the careful, backward steps Myra instructed. Several times, she tricked the creature using reflections, mirrors, and the shadows of the broken equipment. The creature lunged and missed. The recruits began to understand that the danger was not only in front or behind, it was everywhere. Only awareness, focus, and calm thinking could save them. Some recruits who panicked were tagged and removed. Others tried to run blindly, only to be struck from angles they did not watch. Myra kept the boy and one other girl close. Her calm presence guided them through a maze of empty rooms, corridors, and storage spaces. Finally, they reached a secure chamber. The door was heavy, metallic, and they pushed it closed behind them. The creature stayed outside, growling and scratching at the door. For the first time, the group felt a measure of safety. The boy looked at Myra with wide eyes. "How did you know it would attack like that?" Myra shook her head slightly. "It doesn't attack where people expect. It waits where they don't look." She glanced at the corners of the room, never fully trusting even the safe space. In the observation room above, the instructors watched the live feed with tense faces. "She is the only one who reacts correctly," one said. "The others are gone because they followed the rules blindly. She adapts. She thinks ahead." The instructors spoke quietly among themselves. They had not planned for the creature to be this effective. They realized that Myra's instincts were not just learned in training. They were natural, honed from years of surviving unpredictable dangers. Myra's small group rested briefly. She gave them instructions, quietly reminding them to watch every sound, every movement, every shadow. Her voice was calm yet firm. "Do not assume safety. Do not trust silence. We move only when we know the path is clear." Outside, the creature prowled. Inside, the recruits adjusted to their new reality. Fear was present, but it was tempered by careful observation. Myra's methods had taught them that panic was the enemy, and awareness was the shield. The stage was far from over. The building stretched endlessly, with more rooms, more corridors, and more hidden dangers. Yet, for the first time, the recruits began to understand the lesson. The real threat does not announce itself, and it attacks where no one expects. Myra led them into the next corridor. Shadows stretched long across the cracked floors. Reflections in broken glass flashed. The creature was still near, but they could hear its movements faintly. The recruits followed her lead, moving slowly backward, aware of every sound, every motion, every possibility. The stage tested not only survival but perception, patience, and courage. Myra's instincts guided them, proving that in the world of the test, danger could appear anywhere, but calm awareness could turn fear into strength. The observation screens above flickered as the instructors recorded every step. She may be the only one who understands what survival truly means, one said. The others are gone. Only she can handle what comes next. Myra did not look at the screens. She focused on the hall ahead and behind, her senses alert. The silence was heavy. The air smelled of dust and metal. Shadows moved unnaturally. Somewhere the creature waited. Somewhere more danger waited. Her small group moved steadily, slowly, always alert, always aware. The test had become more real than ever, but Myra knew one thing clearly. Awareness, calm thinking, and watching where others do not could turn the most impossible danger into something they could survive. The stage was far from over, and she would not look only forward. She would watch everything, including the shadows behind. The true test had only just begun. The next stage started in a section of the research station that felt even stranger than before. The hallways were wider but darker. Broken lights flickered, casting shadows that moved like they had a life of their own. The air smelled of oil and rust, thick and heavy. Myra's small group moved cautiously, every step measured, every sound noticed. The boy from the previous stages followed closely, while a girl with pale hair stayed near the wall, trembling but determined to survive. The instructors watched from above. Their screens showed strange marks on the floor where previous recruits had been tagged. "She adapts too well," one whispered. "She's different from the others. Her methods are not taught, they come from experience." Another instructor nodded slowly. "Yes, she anticipates, calculates, and reacts before danger appears. She sees what others cannot." Myra kept her eyes scanning both the corridor ahead and the spaces behind. She noticed small details: a reflection in broken glass, a shadow moving just behind a metal beam, faint noises that did not belong to the air conditioning or the building. Her instincts told her something alive was here, something dangerous, and it was hunting them carefully. A soft growl echoed from a doorway ahead. The other recruits froze. Myra whispered, "Keep moving slowly. Don't run." "Watch the walls," the boy whispered back. "It's like the last stage, but bigger." Myra nodded. She knew it was the same principle. The threat attacked from where most people never looked. Suddenly, the lights went out completely. Darkness filled the hallway. Panic rose among the group. Some screamed. The girl with pale hair stumbled, almost falling. Myra caught her arm. "Stay close, calm down, listen carefully." She paused for a moment, letting her ears and eyes adjust. She noticed a faint sound, claws scraping the metal floor behind them. She moved backward slowly, guiding the group. Every step was deliberate. They avoided loose debris that could make noise. Shadows shifted around them. The creature was close, but it was also cautious. It sensed fear and hesitation. Myra whispered instructions to her group, telling them how to stay together, how to watch all angles, and how to confuse the creature using reflections and broken objects as cover. A loud crash echoed from a side corridor. Some recruits screamed and ran toward it, thinking it was a path forward. Myra stopped them with a firm hand. "No, don't run blindly," she said. She led them in a controlled zigzag path, keeping their backs covered and eyes alert. The creature lunged at the empty space where they would have been if they had run forward. Myra's quick thinking saved them again. The instructors above watched every move. One pointed at the screen. "She predicts the attacks. She uses the environment. She never panics. She has survived situations most recruits would die in instantly." Another replied, "It's instinct. Nothing we could teach gives this level of awareness. She thinks in 3 directions at once, forward, sideways, and behind. That is rare." The group reached a large room filled with overturned tables and scattered equipment. The darkness made it hard to see, but Myra noticed a slight movement behind a pile of boxes. She whispered, "There it is. Move around it slowly." They followed her instructions carefully. The creature lunged, but the group had already shifted, confusing it. It growled in frustration. Myra used reflections from broken glass to watch the creature without facing it directly. She noticed that it tried to anticipate their steps, but it could not predict their careful backward movements. She adjusted the group's formation, moving them in a circle, backs to backs, so the creature could not sneak up on anyone. The pale-haired girl began to understand the method, watching her own back more carefully than before. Several times, the creature tried to surprise them, emerging from side doors or from shadows above, but Myra's strategies allowed them to evade every attack. She whispered instructions, using small gestures to guide their steps. Her calm presence became a shield against fear. The recruits followed her lead, realizing that awareness and careful planning could protect them even from unpredictable threats. At one point, the boy stumbled over a piece of metal. Myra caught him just in time, preventing the creature from tagging him. She whispered, "Never trust your feet alone. Watch everything." They moved slowly through the hallway, avoiding debris and shadows alike. Every corner they passed could hide a new threat, but they stayed alert. The instructors noted her tactics. "She has mastered the environment," one said. "She does not just react, she controls the situation. That is the difference between instinct and training." The other nodded. "This is what survival truly means. Others follow instructions. She adapts and anticipates." Finally, they reached a secure chamber. The door was heavy and metallic. Myra pushed it closed and the creature stayed outside, growling and scratching at the metal. Inside, the group caught their breath. They were alive, unscathed, and beginning to understand the lesson of the test. Danger can appear from anywhere, and only those who stay calm and aware can survive. Myra looked at the others. "Stay calm. Observe. Nothing is as it seems. The real danger is where you do not look." The boy and the pale-haired girl nodded. They understood for the first time that their instincts, their attention to detail, and their awareness of shadows and sounds were the true keys to survival. Outside the chamber, the creature prowled. Inside, the recruits adjusted to their new reality. Fear was present, but it was controlled, shaped by observation and careful movement. Myra's guidance had taught them that panic is the enemy and awareness is the shield. The instructors recorded every movement, impressed and worried. "She may be the only one who truly understands the test," one said. "The rest are gone because they could not think beyond the obvious." Myra did not look at the observation screens. She focused on the hallways ahead and behind, senses sharp. Shadows moved strangely. Faint metallic sounds came from hidden corners. She knew more danger awaited them. Her group moved steadily, backward when necessary, careful, alert, and aware. Each step was deliberate, each glance calculated. They had survived the stage not by strength, but by observation, calm thinking, and anticipating attacks from every direction. The stage was far from over. The building stretched endlessly, with hidden corridors, more rooms, and concealed threats. Myra's group moved forward, ready for what lay ahead. Awareness, calmness, and the ability to watch behind had become their most powerful weapons. The true test had only just begun, and Myra would not look only forward. She would watch every angle, every shadow, every movement, knowing that the real danger often comes from where no one thinks to see. The final stage began in a wide, open courtyard beyond the research station. The sky above was gray and heavy, clouds hanging low, giving the area a dim, uneasy light. Broken buildings and scattered debris made the place look like an abandoned city. The recruits who had survived the previous stages gathered nervously, knowing this was supposed to be the last test. Myra stood among them, calm, her eyes scanning the wide space. The boy and the pale-haired girl stayed close, following her quietly. The instructors' voices came through speakers. "Final challenge. The threat is hidden. You must find it before it finds you. Observe carefully. Do not assume safety. Watch everywhere. Danger is not always visible." The recruits exchanged worried looks. They had survived machines, drones, and a live creature, but this sounded different. Nothing moved in front of them. The courtyard seemed empty. Most recruits looked ahead, squinting into the gray distance. They scanned rooftops, broken walls, and distant corners. Myra, however, did not follow them. She glanced at every face, every hand, every shadow behind. She noticed subtle movements, a twitch in a figure's stance, a faint glimmer of metal beneath a sleeve, a soft humming that did not belong to the wind or debris. The instructors watched from above. "This is the final test," one said. "We are not using creatures or machines. The danger is subtle human, hidden in plain sight." Another instructor nodded. "It is the perfect test of awareness. Only the recruits who truly observe will pass." Myra moved slowly through the courtyard, her eyes constantly shifting from the horizon to the edges of the group. She felt a tension in the air, a subtle signal that something was wrong. While the others looked forward, she noticed a man in an instructor's uniform lingering near a control panel at the far edge. He appeared calm, but his hands moved repeatedly over a small wrist device. Myra's instincts told her he was more than an observer. He was the real danger. She whispered to the boy and the girl, "Do not focus only on what's in front. Something is here that wants to test us without being seen." They nodded, unsure but trusting her judgment. Myra approached the man slowly, watching his movements. The faint hum grew louder as she got closer. She realized he was activating small drones concealed in the area. They were silent, designed to attack when the recruits looked away. Myra signaled the group to spread out, maintaining a circle formation so they could watch each other's backs. The first drones activated silently, hovering just behind the recruits who continued to stare forward. A quick movement, and a recruit was tagged before they could react. Panic spread instantly, but Myra kept her voice calm. "Watch carefully. Every movement matters. Don't look only where you expect danger." The boy caught sight of a drone above a ruined wall and dodged. Another girl screamed as a drone zipped behind her, but Myra had already predicted its path and pulled her out of the way. Slowly, the remaining recruits began to follow her lead, realizing that the real test was not in the machines or creatures, but in awareness, in seeing what others did not. The hidden instructor tried to remain unnoticed, signaling more drones to attack. Myra approached him cautiously, keeping her eyes on both him and the drones. She noticed the small panel on his wrist controlling the machines. The drones were programmed to activate only when recruits looked forward, assuming the danger came from the open courtyard. Myra smiled faintly. The system assumed humans think the same way every time. She did not. The group moved backward carefully, monitoring every shadow, every reflection, every faint movement. Myra used broken pieces of glass to see the drones before they became visible. Each time a drone approached, she guided the recruits out of the way. The man controlling them grew frustrated, signaling more aggressively, but Myra anticipated every move. Finally, she reached the man. She grabbed his wrist and forced him to deactivate the control panel. The drone stopped instantly, hovering in place, harmless. Other instructors rushed forward to secure him. The recruits who had survived stared in shock. Myra's calm awareness had prevented an ambush that no one else could have detected. The commanding instructor approached Myra, a rare smile on his face. "You have passed the final test. You saw what others could not. You observed the danger where it was hidden." Most recruits would have been eliminated before understanding the true threat. Myra simply nodded, exhausted but steady. She knew the lesson of the entire test. Danger is not always obvious, and the real challenge is to notice the unseen. The boy and the pale-haired girl looked at her with admiration. "You saved us again," the boy whispered. Myra shook her head. "We saved ourselves by staying aware, by not trusting what seemed safe." The final report displayed on the screens above showed that every other recruit had failed because they only looked forward. Their instincts were strong, but they lacked observation beyond the obvious. Myra's path showed careful analysis, anticipation, and calm reaction to all threats, visible or hidden. The instructors spoke quietly among themselves. She is not just a survivor. She is a thinker, a strategist. She understands awareness in a way we rarely see. Another replied, "This is why humans succeed in unpredictable situations. Instinct, observation, and caution allow them to survive where machines and logic fail." Myra looked at the courtyard one last time. The drones had been secured. The hidden instructor was being escorted away. The wind carried dust across the broken ground, and silence returned. She adjusted her bag and took a deep breath. She knew that this test was not the end but a beginning. It had shown her and the instructors something important. Real threats are often hidden, and survival depends on seeing beyond the obvious. The boy asked, "What happens now?" Myra smiled faintly. "Now we prepare for anything. The real world is full of dangers people don't see coming, and we have learned how to watch them." The instructors gathered the recruits. "Those who pass today have demonstrated something rare: awareness, calmness, and the ability to observe where others fail. You are ready for advanced defense operations across the colony." Myra's heart beat steadily. She felt ready. She had seen the danger that no one else noticed, reacted before it struck, and saved her group. The lessons of the test would stay with her forever. She understood something crucial: human awareness and instinct are unmatched. Machines, creatures, and even other humans cannot predict those who truly watch, who pay attention to what others ignore. As the recruits were led to safety, Myra glanced back once more. The empty courtyard seemed harmless now, but she knew better. Danger often hides where no one looks, and humans who watch carefully, who think ahead, can survive anything. The final stage ended, but a lesson lingered in the air. On every colony, in every city, humans had the ability to notice what others missed, to prepare for threats that remained unseen. Myra had proven that instinct, awareness, and calm observation could turn the tables on danger, no matter how clever or hidden it was. The instructors filed their reports, noting her every action, and whispered among themselves, "This is why humans are remarkable. They do not only look forward. Some of them watch the dark behind you, and that is why they survive when nothing else can." Myra walked out of the station with her group. Exhausted but alert, she understood that the test was a beginning, not an end. Somewhere in the galaxy, threats would wait, silent and hidden, and humans like her, who watched carefully, would be ready. Her eyes scanned the horizon, her mind alert, and she smiled faintly. The unseen danger would never take her by surprise again.